Kitchen pedal out here.
I see that. And that's Mary's P quilt, the sign-in sheet. This is our first B meeting, 2021. It's April 17th. The meeting will be at 2 o'clock. I just wanted to tape what an absolutely superb job Mary did in getting this lined up. She did the lion's share of this. So I'm really proud of her. She did a super job. So I just wanted to tape a little bit before we get people in here and we have a keepsake of it. Now today's agenda should include going over winter survival, setting up the future meetings for the summer at Tri-Valley School, any problems people have in welcoming newcomers, and addressing any questions if we have any newcomers. So that should be the meeting agenda. Mary should have been a professional meeting planner, I think. She did such a good job. All right, this part is ended. Also wanted to take a peek outside.
There's 9 coming from across the road. I got
These are out there trying to make their crap better.
You know, this is the types of leaves next to your field, that the field will produce 50 to 22% more yield because of the pollination. I don't know if they do it now. We never did. We got them so late last year. And then because of COVID, we just left it at home and then transplanted. 80 acres down south of Walmart. You know, it's nice to rework it out for that. There's 3 possible ways. Pasture, and 2 other pieces, and you rotate through it so one of them going to hay. And he lets a lot for something to make it happen. So the beef just goes straight in. There's also a lot of clothing you lost every one of them. They sprayed that all the helicopters playing in fungicide on the field next to us, and we're in the restricted zone. He didn't get that message. You know anybody else wear that beat? Really? I tell you what, we can set you up with a
Went down.
Should be fine, that's fine. You know what, it was nice. Yeah, we had a nice time. You know what? We were sitting around, we were ready to go.
He said it's he
We're gonna postpone the meeting a little bit here for a few minutes. I'm gonna go bring an empty hive up here, so we can go through it for the newcomers and show you exactly what goes into a hive.
Maybe we can get down to the.
Yes, please. We'll be back in a minute. Just so we can show new people.
No, we are not. They don't like me. And they'll come out.
Oh, come on now. They maybe need an old guy to give directions.
This is like, where the you don't get
We're here in about 3 weeks. 3 from now on. Pick on moose. And you get 4 frames of beef in there with the food. And you get your life started. But last year we brought back 120. And so, because if you come up during the day, all the food around, what they do, you have to pick them up after dark, and we get them picked up. And then when we get home, we get them taken out of our trailer and scattered them around the lawn. And then the next time we go to them, we'll try to get them. I was looking for him. That was going to help me. We get a phone call one day and he said, 2 years ago, I needed to get out of it. We are going to take a work. We didn't have that work trailer last year. The only thing is, it's a slant trailer. I think we can get pallets in for sure. I don't think we can put it in each case, we'll have to take the 40 off of that pallet and scatter them on the track. And but still, after last year, see, the boxes always were wooden before, heavy. Last year he gave us 3 pallets, and we're going to probably wrap up. Well, not wrapped up, strapped up. With those, and we start, you know, back in the trailer, we start heading down the interstate, going to the footbridge and stop. I'll see the pallets, and it was, yeah, so I mean, literally, took one, pushed it up, hold this, took another one, pushed it up, hold this, and then we re-strapped it because of the wind in the box. It was a little like, well, we lost a lot of meat. That was
Fly back on the
said, I don't know if we're gonna do it yet, so we gotta come up with a solution.
Okay, I'd like to welcome you. We're a little bit late getting started here. That's my fault. We weren't quite ready. We got a few more than I expected here, which is wonderful. First, I'd like to welcome you. I'm going to slip my mask off so you can hear me without me mumbling. I'd like to welcome you all. Thank you for coming, especially our newcomers. Now, we're going to have a time at the end of the meeting where if newcomers have questions, you can ask them. We'll help you any way we can. Now, our agenda changed today. I was hoping it'd be warmer and we went down and went through a hive and explained it all as we go through. So we'll have to put that on hold until next meeting. So today we're going to kind of go through everything. We're going to get a little idea from those of us who already have these, how our winter went. We're going to set up the schedule for the year. Hopefully the future meetings this year will meet up at Tri-Valley. If Tri-Valley's not available, Teresa, or we'll have it, or Teresa will have it at their place. So we will have a meeting on those dates somewhere. I'd like you all to give Mary a hand for all the hard work she did. And her husband's been in the hospital most of the time, so she had to do it most of it by herself. So I think we'll start off. I've got a little schedule here I was going to kind of go through. What I want to do is kind of go over the meeting schedule, what we're going to do down the road here. And I'm going to ask for topics from all of you that you'd like to have at the meetings. So our first meeting, if you want to write these down, if you've got a pencil, and I'll send out a newsletter, as long as I got an email address I can read. I'll send you out a little letter that explains what we'll be doing at the meeting, and the agenda and the dates and stuff. But I'll wait till we get them set out. Our first meeting, Teresa and I sat down. Teresa, would you stand up so everybody can see? She's the co-chair for this group here all the time. We kind of work together on this here. She's a good gal here. If you have bee questions, need bees or anything, she's your go-to gal. We've got some experts that are in here too. We got Jane, we got Donna, we got a few beekeepers, we got, I can't remember names, I'm sorry. So we've got a lot of us that have raised bees, but we're all learning together. You gotta remember when you raise bees, or when you're a beekeeper, it's a challenging field every year. And for those of you that are new, not one year always works for the next, but that's what we meet for, to share things that work and things that are a challenge and how to better do it. You know, with all the sprays in the area and the tough winters and Verona mite challenges, we gotta do this together so we can save our bees and so we have bees in the future. So that's part of the reason that we started the group. So the meeting dates will be May 29th, June 26th, July 24th, August 21st, September 25th, and October 23rd. There she is. Put your name on the chart, Dale, for me. Where was I at? That will be our last meeting for the season, and then we take the winter off till next spring, till the following spring. That's what we did. This is only this is the third year of the group, but we didn't meet last year because of COVID. So this is actually the second functioning year of the group. And we just started this. A few of us took classes at Sioux Falls Community College with Dwayne Bajima. He taught the class on how to raise bees. And we found some excellent beekeepers in the area that were really knowledgeable, so that's how we set the group up to start with. So, I think the first agenda is, what topics would you like to see on the May 29th meeting? Let's set that up right away so we vote. So we got those topics set up. Teresa, you had something lined up for swarming, didn't you?
Well, I was thinking, because that's, May and June is when the bees start swarming, so we can, maybe that would be a good subject, of what you can do to keep them from swarming, and then, what you can do to catch swarms.
Sure, both, wonderful. So we'll put that as a topic. Anybody has any ideas, things they want to hear, want to have talks about, we could sure do that. I'd like to have the extension office come out, because they talked 2 years ago about bee pasture, and what you can put in to help raise flowers and different things to create pollinator pastures for the bees. We gotta have that too. So I'd like to see if I can book him into one of these meetings. And so,
I think
wintering will be the 23rd of October. That's what we plan to do for the 23rd of October, is how to winter over winter and what we can do better than we did last year. I know my hives, I got 5 hives, 3 are in good shape, 2 are, I don't know if they're gonna make it. That last cold snap was really tough on me with that wind. So wintering on the 23rd, the May 29th will be the swarming. Now, June 6th, I'd like, if Don and Joel are interested, you gave such an excellent talk 2 years ago on Verona mites. If you guys could take that meeting, I'd really appreciate it. Because that is a challenge for all beekeepers. That and other pests in the hive. So if you do that, I appreciate you guys volunteer. I'm kind of rolling, Don. Don, rolling, yeah, no. Okay, now, who has a topic they'd like to discuss or interested in doing on the 24th of July? Anyone?
I'm new, so I don't know
Sure, what
what
would
would
you like?
actually be appropriate, but I'm wondering about summer and the heat and just that, like.
Winter and
They
summer
like
are two
heat.
different.
They like heat.
Okay.
Heat's not an issue. Bees like it up in the upper 90s in the hive. So that's, well, unless you don't have ventilation, then it's an issue, but if you have ventilation, it's not. But that's a good subject to bring up. I think we should do some newcomer education on one of these. What do you think, Teresa?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Newcomer education on one of these meetings.
Yeah.
Strictly for newcomers, okay?
In July? That's what you mean?
July 24th.
What, doesn't have to just be the
No, it's for anybody.
we'll talk about that.
I'm gonna try to book, the extension office on either the 21st of September, I just don't know what date I can get them. We talk about bee pasture and anything else pertinent to that, like we did a couple years ago. Okay,
We can get along with him.
so these subjects may change as soon as I figure out who can do the talk, give the presentation and stuff like that, in case we have to move the topic back and forth.
But will you get
And
that
after-
in an email?
You'll get an email that'll cover what the topic is, but the one thing I want to stress, our meetings are informal. So if you have an issue during the week or something you don't know how to do, or you don't know what to do, you bring it to the group and we'll help you. You know, that's the main thing about working together.
Sure, they can contact
Yeah,
one
and
of
my
us.
phone number, Teresa's phone number is there, and any of the guys, people that have been here can sure help you, you know. Raising bees isn't as easy as it looks in the book. When I took my class at Sioux Falls, what was the name of that, community education, Wayne got up and he said, why do you want to raise bees? He was quoting all of us. He says, if you don't want to raise bees because you like bees and if you think it's no work, he says, then don't raise bees. He said, it's work if you want to keep them alive. You've got to pay attention to them, you got to take care of them, and you got to do all this. So enough for me. Okay, we'll get that. I need another topic yet.
How about honey harvesting?
Yeah, that's a good one. We'll put honey harvesting. And I'll arrange these as I could book it in there. Harvesting. Okay, now normally today we were gonna open my hives, take everybody down there with suits on and show what the hive's like inside and all that. Well, we can't do it, it's too cold. And I'm just afraid I got some weak hives, and if we open them, we won't make it for sure. So we're gonna have to wait on that. I did bring a frame here, only a frame and a top, and I'll try to go through that a little bit with you. When you set up a beehive, you wanna have a base, and I don't have one except down on my hives. So you wanna have a base, and then on the above that goes what they call a super. I like to put two supers up there. Super is a deeper frame, and that's where your brood is, and that's where your little ones are hatched out. And above that is your honey supers, okay? And that depends on your bees, how many of them you put on. You put some people use a queen extruder in there to keep the queen out, some don't. Some just let it go. I'd use one, but that doesn't make it right for everybody. And then above that, we have I'll show you over here, those who want to show you. I should have a whole frame here, but mine are tied up with my bees. These are the frames. This is a super. It's a little narrower. Your deeps are a little bit deeper. Your supers are a little bit smaller, because these are what the honey goes in. And believe me, when they're full of honey, they're heavy. So the bees will form wax combs over this and deposit the honey in here. Now, when I get new bees, there's 10 frames in here. When I get new bees, I put a box above and I put a feeder in there, and that's what this hole is for. You can see where they built some honeycomb on these. But I put a feeder in there. It's a jar with and I can show you that over here. I got one of them up here. No. It's,
They should be in there.
it's just a jar like, I use a quart jar. Just a jar with a lid with little holes in it. Fill that up with sugar water, I use 2 parts sugar, 1 part water, some use 1 and 1. And you get the water about boiling before you put the sugar in. If you don't, it doesn't mix real well. So I put this on the top, and there's other feeders, there's some that go in the hive, but when you get a new nuke, you want to feed them for a while anyway, until the bloom and everything's blooming and stuff good. So they got feed. I'm kind of bouncing around here a little bit.
So that just slowly drips down, like, is there anything to worry about?
Pardon?
We bought the lids.
We bought the lids at,
During.
yeah, Durant, Sioux City, they'll mail them to you. And you can use any quart jar. The quart jars fit in the soup. I take an empty super, set it on top here, and then set the jar in here, and then I put my lid and cover on, okay? There's a lot more to it than I'm explaining, but I'm kind of giving you a little overview today. So we need a base. You need 2 supers. 2 deeps. I like to use 2 for brood. And then I put as many of these on as I need through the summer for honey. Now depends on how good a honey year you have and how good a pasture you have around there, where there's flowers, where they can feed. That makes a big difference.
Do we have pollination plots around here? I have a friend in Iowa, and I guess it's becoming a pretty big thing over there.
I'm putting a little one in here for my bees this summer. We're
Okay.
taking part of the garden out. I got some wildflower mix, I'm gonna try it.
Okay.
We'll see.
They love sweet clover, they love alfalfa, they love hay fields. Providing the hay blooms, it isn't mowed before it blooms. So, yeah, when you're gonna work your bees, you wanna have a smoker. The bees I got down there, I can go in front of that hive in the summer normally and they won't bother me, but the minute I pop that lid off, you better have a suit. At least mine are that way, they get kind of bucky. I use a smoker, you put a little stuff in it, and we'll go through this more in detail. I'm just giving you, we got so many newcomers here. I'm trying to give you a little overview. And Joel and Don are real good at lighting smokers. I cheat, I use a little bit of this, when you light briquettes on a grill, I squirt a little bit. I put a bunch of wood stuff in here, like pellets, ground wood pellets, put it in there and squirt a little stuff on, that's how I light it, so I cheat. Most people use different things like that to do it. I couldn't keep it lit. But then you gotta you put this on, and you gotta do this. Then there's a little opening here on the base where your bees go in and out, see? So you smoke that good, and then here's a crack on the top where you gotta have a top open here, see? So you get ventilation through the hive, and there's different kinds of tops. There's Marilyn's husband makes these quilted tops, I call them. They got wood chips in and a screen in the bottom. They're nice too. They're really nice too, really nice. So then you just pump a little smoke in them, pump a little in here, don't overdo it. And then the bees will get into that protection mode, grab honey and run, and they're not in the stinging mode. So they're a lot easier to work with when you lose a little smoke. As far as honey production, getting the honey out of the supers, we'll go through that in a meeting down the road, because that can be a whole class of time itself, But to get started, you almost need 2 supers, and I would have at least 2 blue boxes, and something similar for a top cover, and then there's just a cover that goes over the top, and I insulate that. But, there's different ways to do it.
And there's books on the table.
Yeah, we got a ton of books on this table that will show you what a newcomer kit. I get my stuff out of Sioux City, because I've got kids down there, so I just run down there and get it. But there's other companies, Manly has them, you can buy stuff online. So that kind of gives you an idea of what you need. Joel or Don, you got anything to add here? I'm not thinking of everything, I know that. Teresa?
I have a question. You
You
said we
bet.
have 2 supers, why 2? We bought
Two.
all of our stuff, we only have 1 super.
That's the deep high
The-
box. No,
The
that's
brood chamber.
brood chamber, yeah, that's a better word.
The
I
bottom
get my
big
term-
boxes are brood chambers,
Yeah.
the top boxes are supers.
Yeah.
And they're all supers, they can all be used for supers, but just for simplification or clarification, the bottom two deeps are generally your brood chambers. You give her 2 deep boxes to lay brood, lay eggs, and raise brood in. And then everything above that is your honey supers that you can take the honey out.
So you want 2 deeps?
You want 2 brood chambers deep.
Not
Yep.
one.
Yep, that way she's got lots of room, especially if you're using a queen extruder. If you're not, then you can put 1 deep box and put medium supers on there, but she's gonna go up into those supers and lay eggs and brood and stuff, so they're not gonna be full of honey. She'll go up as high as she wants to lay, and there again, it depends on the queen, you know, some of them would lay 5 deep boxes full of brood if you let them, you know, and most, but for the most part, you want 2 to keep a good population up.
The other thing you want to remember is when you get, if you buy a nuke or you buy a package, either way, they recommend you start out with 1 deep or 1 brood chamber first, and then let that kind of fill up. And when you gotta check them, make sure they're, and when that gets kind of full, then you pop the second one on top.
Correct.
Okay, so that gets a chance to fill up too. And like I said, if you want to use a queen extruder above that for your deeps, or your, I get my terms mixed up. For your supers, those are the honey supers, you know, you can do that. It keeps the queen out of there from laying eggs, so when you want to go and process it, all you got in there is honey frames. But some say it reduces the amount of honey you get, some say it doesn't, I don't know. I can't answer that. But that's a minimum for a hive. Yeah, when we get done here, we'll take you in the grove, you can look at my hives and see how they're set up. I just can't open them. So if you're sure, we'll do that. I mean, that we can do. What else did Dwayne go through in that initial class? My memory's not so good, so you have to bear. Go ahead, ask. Go ahead.
That's a separate topic.
Pardon?
For feeding right now.
Yes.
With existing hives, should we be, I guess, what should we do?
I would be feeding now.
Yeah, like inside the hive? Yes. Okay.
As long as that jar doesn't freeze.
Okay, that's what I'm.
And there's, yeah, Marilyn, you want to show us that feeder that you brought over here, that you can even make one for outside the hive here, if you would please. Marilyn brought me a feeder to use outside the house.
Okay.
Pretty cool.
We used this last fall, and it was really good. Just pop down there, throw at the top, and then some straw put in there. Then you put your, then you put your sugar water in there, put the lid on, go on top so it doesn't blow away. But put this away from your hives.
Is it like 200 feet or something?
Yeah, so that they don't start to rot, but that way you don't have to be putting, opening up the hives every.
That's what I was worried about with that.
So
They-
that's what we do.
They do recommend that you stuff the inside of the bucket with sandpaper,
Okay.
just to get rough it a little bit so the bees have an easier time walking up the sides.
Yeah,
So
they gotta have a little grip, you know.
if you stuff the inside of the bucket with sandpaper to rough it up a little bit, the bees can walk up the sides a lot easier. And that's actually true on a lot of the plastics in hives,
And what's that made for inside?
so they don't drown.
So they don't drown, they can.
So you only fill it up?
Right, not above the straw. And then, you still get some drowning, but not nearly as much as anything else that I have tried.
And the straw will float, so as the level of sugar goes down, sugar water goes down, the straw will go down with it. So,
I see Dave has a floating lid now for both 2 and 5 gallon buckets. It's labeled as new, but just flipping through there, I saw that. So rather than using the hay or something, you can buy the little lid float in it.
What about foundation? Does anybody here doing foundation less, or is everybody kind of using that
You
for?
mean the vertical foundation?
No.
I thought that's what you put in the fridge. frame.
In the frame,
All that
yeah.
foundation.
Right, the foundation, there's several different
Yes.
types of foundation too. We run some where we just take, well, when you buy frames to put them together and stuff, there's a little strip of wood on them that you can break off, and they use that to hold the foundation in. What we did is just took that little strip of wood and we put it up on the center on the top. So there's a strip on the top of the board, and then just put it in there empty. And they'll actually build comb off of that strip, and then you'll have solid wax that doesn't have any wires in it or plastic in it. Because when we got a cutter, it's 4 inch by 4 inch, and you just like a cookie cutter, you can cut out blocks of wax, and then you still got the cap honey, and then it goes in a little plastic container, and you eat it just like that.
Do you put a little bit of honey or anything on that?
No, we don't. Just put that strip of wood on there and put it in there, and they'll start building right off that center strip.
It's just a place for them to hang. Because
Yeah.
they normally hang, they form chains when they're building comb. So that gives them a nice place for the first bee to anchor themselves.
Yeah.
Hang.
They always start building at the top and then build down. So if you give them a center strip to go on, then they build a pretty even row of wax right down the middle, and then down the middle, and then they attach it around. These are plastic foundation that are wax coated. It feels like it's wax coated.
It is.
You can get it without wax coating, I wouldn't recommend it. They really like the wax better. The plastic without wax coating, they don't like to build on. They will, but they don't like to. Or like we use straight wax foundation. It's pure wax, there's no plastic in it, it's pure wax foundation is what we use for ours.
And I've kind of noticed that they will build out on a wax foundation first, then they will do a white plastic, and this is ours didn't have any covering on it, but they would build on the white plastic first, and then the black plastic last. Which I thought was a little bit odd, but that's what the pattern seemed to be.
So you can mix them in one box.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can mix it up with
whatever.
frames and stuff, that's not a problem.
Well, I forgot to announce too, when we started, if anybody has problems wearing a mask for respiratory reasons or whatever reasons, go ahead, you don't have to. I mean, I just don't want
If
anybody.
they have insurance,
Yeah,
if you've been vaccinated.
but, so that covers a little basic of the frame. There's several different tops you can put on here, you know, see. And there's just a plain wood cover with metal over the top. And then they make these quilted box where they're framed out, and you put screen on the bottom, and then you put wood chips on the top, and then you put the lid on the top with the little spacers. And that's supposed to let the moisture and air through a little bit better and get the moisture out. One of the problems in the winter for me, when I lose dead bees in the bottom of my hive, they're wet. And I think I get too much moisture in the hive. I put 2 inches of insulation around my hives. I slip this, and I can show you that in the shed too when we go down there. I slip this thing over my hives in the winter to give them a little more protection. But I lost a couple hives, and I wonder if it isn't too warm in the hive. So I don't know. So that's why, one reason we're here today is discuss what happened this winter and how we turned out. Now, I know there's been a lot of hive loss this year due to spray. That's one of the culprits. If you got neighbors that are spraying insecticides or fungicides, and you got your bees real close, they're sitting duck. I'm just gonna tell you right out that it's tough. So you wanna keep them away. I got mine down behind the lilacs there, between the evergreens and the lilacs. Hopefully those trees will filter out any spray that would drip. That'll help reduce that. The other problem that last year, in the fall, I went through 4 times and treated mine with bromamides. I used oxalic acid. It's a little thing you put a little bit in, you slide it in your hive, you shut the hive off so the bees can't get up. You hook it up to a battery, run it for about 5 minutes, pull it out, let the hive shut up for another 5-10 minutes, and then they're treated. So it's not hard to do.
And it's cheap.
It's cheap and it's natural. The bees produce it on their own in the hives anyway. So it's not a chemical for say like,
It is an organic acid. If anybody's familiar with dung cane, it's a very common house plant that's known for having oxalic acid in the leaves. And the deal why it's called dung cane is if you eat the leaves, the oxalic acid crystals irritate your throat and stuff, so you can't talk. So,
when you're doing that, you want to make sure you're downwind.
yes.
It doesn't hurt the bees at all, but if you whip it in, it may hurt you. So that's one of the cautions. There are other products you can buy at different stores that have guard and stuff that are different kinds of products you can lay in your hives too. But so far I've just used oxalic acid. I know others use other things too. So trying to give you a little overview here because we got so many newcomers here today. Questions from you guys that are new?
Is there a way to check for mites?
You can pull
Yes.
them out, yes, there is a test you can use. I'd have to get the book out, but you take the hive and you scrape so many into a little thing, and then I think it's powdered sugar.
You can use
Yeah.
powdered sugar, and that doesn't kill the bees.
No, but it'll,
Or you can use alcohol, and that kills the bees.
yep, and then they'll shake off and you can tell how many you have.
Oh.
But if you raise bees in this area by fall, you'll have some mites in the hive. You know, it's just how many.
Yeah.
I had 5 hives and I treated them. 3 of them I didn't hardly see a mite. 1 was loaded and 1 had a medium amount. So, and here's the thing about mites. They feed on the fat and stuff inside the bee and other things. But they weaken that bee for over the winter. So if you got a lot of mites and they go in the winter and they're weak either from mites or from spray or something else, they're not going to make the winter. And these winters here are cold. So also, I was going to add one more part. What we do in the wintertime too, they make an entrance reducer. So when you get a new nuke or a new package of bees, we put an entrance reducer in the hive. Now, I was told right at first to use the small opening. If you got, let them get used to the hive and then use a little wider one. And as they get stronger, then you take it out and let them go. But that depends on the weather and how strong your hive is. If you're into the second box, you can pretty much let it go by then already. But when you first put them in there, see, the bees set up guard bees in front to protect, keep other things, other bees and other insects out of their hive. And if that opening's too big and you got a small package, it's too hard for them to defend the hive. So you can get moss in there and other things. So those are things you gotta be aware of, you know. Trying to think off the top of my head here.
On the topic of like pesticides, has anybody used anything else other than trees as kind of a break or anything that they've had any luck with to try to, I don't know?
Best thing is if you got an area around where nobody sprays, you're sitting good.
Yeah, that's one where anybody.
You know, we're in farm country, and I know the guys need it. I'm not gonna say anything.
They were spraying near where we have our bees, and we actually ended up losing everything. But I was tempted to use the 270 caliber preventative measures on the plane. I thought that was a little extreme. You know?
Any sort of like plywood, you know, kind of
No,
like break,
there's-
kind of like a break or anything.
These bees go everywhere.
Don, I got something to say on that subject.
You go ahead, Teresa.
This is the bee location permission.
Oh, yes.
And this, if you're with the state and you fill this out, you, like I've got 2 different locations for my bees, and it doesn't always work, because I've had mine, registered with the state last year, and I lost all 21, because, it was around, September, helicopter came over, sprayed, fungicide, and all 21 of them died, but they didn't go to the map, the state map. And anybody, even the elevators that spray, they're supposed to go to that map. So it's good, it's not expensive, it's $1, and then each hive is 12. So if anybody that's starting, or if you have it, it's supposed to help. the state is.
Well, your hive is registered with the state, and you're supposed to register them only because that way, if people are spraying, especially co-ops and elevators and everybody else that sprays, they're supposed to look at that, and if you have hives, they're supposed to stay so far away. Okay, that's the law.
So I have some extra
Whether they do or
forms
not.
here.
Teresa's got forms, so if you're gonna raise bees, I sign mine up, and it's just a little renewal every year, and you don't have to do anything else. It's real simple. They'll send you a little registration thing, and then you're registered with that. I think it's a good idea. Plus, then they can track death loss and stuff like that to see how much. Because in the last years, the pollinator population has dropped in half. And there's a reason for that, and we can't have that continue. So, something else I was gonna say, and I lost it. But, I'm very lucky here, because when I put the beehives in, I talked to Travis, I talked to Don, and I got a new neighbor. Well, Travis has bought this piece across the road now, over here to there now, so. I told them I had bees, and I got a garden, we got a garden that runs from the road all the way up here. We take about 11,000 pounds to feed in South Dakota or to St. Francis House every summer. So I says, guys, if you're gonna spray, watch the wind, don't spray on my garden and stuff. They've been really good about that. So if you're gonna put bees in, talk to your neighbors, tell them, hey, I got bees. Just watch it when you spray so the wind isn't blowing in my direction, you know. The other thing they tell you, if you know your neighbor's gonna spray, block your hives early in the morning and at least let them get the spraying done, and then later, after a while, just release your bees. That'll help too, providing you know. So many farms, they hire somebody to come in and you don't know when they're coming, and they just come. So, but
Okay,
those are
so-
things that'll help your bees survive. Go ahead.
That's something that I could do at my house. I could black, so could you explain a little bit about blacking it? You black it in the morning?
You mean the hive? Yeah, they told that, when I took my classes, I'm going by a lot what Dwayne taught me. When I took my classes, they said early in the morning, if they're gonna spray, have them spray real early in the morning,
Okay.
okay? And then while that sprayer's out there spraying, you take a towel or something, or a little piece of duct tape over this opening here, just a little piece of duct tape over it, and just take a wet towel and stick it across your bottom entrance. That'll keep them in there. Don't keep them in too long so they don't get too hot.
Okay.
So, and then that'll help, once that spray's settled and it's settled down and stuff, at least that helps.
Okay.
It's not a cure-all, but it helps. Questions? Anybody? I'm either really good or I'm really cool.
Does anybody in this area mess around with warm rooms or open air heating, or is it all, do they do okay in our temperatures?
It's tough here. It's tough here because of winter, especially last one was there.
Yeah.
Did you do some in a shift?
What's that?
Did you do some in a shift?
No, we didn't do that.
Okay,
No.
but they talked about it.
Everything, yeah, we've been discussing it and.
Yeah.
I
haven't really
know
done anything
people
with it.
who have done that. I
Carla,
don't,
did you?
I have not tried it, so I can't tell you. When I went through all my training for this, they weren't talking about warm rooms. He said they do it, but it hasn't come here yet. Now, there's guys that raise bees that they send them to Texas or to California or something in the wintertime. Most of your big producers, they're not here in the wintertime, they're gone. But we're trying to set up so our bees make the winter.
We, back home, I'm over in the Kimball Chamberlain area. We do have one of the major beekeepers winters over some bees there, and they've got a huge warehouse that they just stack, they're on pallets, they just stack them on top of each other, stick them in the warehouse, and they maintain between 35 and 40 degrees all winter long. The bees generally won't fly until it gets to 45, 47-ish, depending on the wind and the sun and all that, but somewhere in that 45-degree range. So if they keep it down to 35 to 40 degrees, they figure it's not as hard on the bees, temperature-wise, and, they're not flying either, so they stay in the hive. But from everything I've read, everything I've seen, everything I've done, we don't insulate ours anymore. We did, don't think it made any difference. The cold doesn't affect them Cause they can cluster tight enough, produce enough heat, as long as they have enough food and they're dry. That's, the
Moisture
biggest thing is the
is a
moisture.
killer.
So what do you
That
do
will
for
kill.
ventilation?
What's that?
What do you do for ventilation? Because mine were wet on the top this year too.
We've got,
Above that inner lid,
yeah,
we've got, our quilt boxes. Basically, it's a box about, well, however tall ours are, about 4 inches tall. And we drill 2-inch holes and put vents in them, louvered vents in them. And then put burlap in the bottom and put wood chips or wood pellets on top of it. And that sits on top of the hive. So any moisture in the hive is gonna go to the top. When it kills the bees is when it drips back off the top.
Yeah.
That water is cold, the bees get wet, they get cold, they die. It always drips off the top down onto them, and that's what kills them. So this will absorb any moisture that goes to the top of the hive. Instead of it hitting that lid, hitting the cold air, condensating and dripping, it'll absorb into the wood chips. And we did really well with that last year. This year, we didn't have any bees left.
That's
So-
it.
they,
I did that too this year. I had my husband, we just took a honey super and he just stapled, the screen on it. And then he actually stapled a queen excluder too, just to keep it a little firmer so it could fall down. But-
Yep.
And then I just took, we actually had some sawdust from
Yep.
the table saw. Put that in there, and this is the thing I think, because all my bees with over the winter, I took a little, just a tomato floor packs, a little piece of plastic, and I cut that, into to the pores, and I cut a little slit on top, and put that in the front of the hive, so it was right, so it could push air, and so I think that humid air would come up there, because I would actually, on cold days, lift that top up, and there'd be frost around there, and it could vent out, because I just put that top like that.
Yeah.
And then also, if there was too much moisture, it would condensate and run down the front of the hive. I was having icicles down the front of the hive. But it prevented it from raining on the bees.
Right.
And so I had the moisture coming up through the top there, and then if it did get too wet, it would just run down and actually make an icicle down the front of the hive. But I mean, I've been struggling with that for a couple of years, and like this year, just no problems with it.
Took care of all the moisture.
Yeah, like,
This
it was the most fantastic thing I've ever seen.
You don't have to have any pictures.
Maybe you could bring that in one of these, like,
Yeah,
winterizing or whatever.
We'll do that in the next few meetings. We thought we'd be opening hives, so this is a whole switch in agenda today. Can you bring an idea like that with us to a meeting?
Yeah, I can bring that next year.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I have pictures on my phone.
So all your hives survived?
Yeah, so I had 4, all of them survived, except for one eventually died just about a month ago, but that was only because that hive swarmed and a new queen came in real late. So she kept laying eggs till December. And so I just think her cycle was totally off. And they actually lived right up until basically that last cold snap.
Sure.
And, but the rest of
it
it
was just too weak.
yeah, it's just, she kept going way too long in the season, and I think they ate up a lot of honey. And yeah, but it wasn't for moisture problems this time, which was the first time. Usually they die of moisture.
And they say that cold doesn't get them, but when you have bitter cold, and then you get like a week or so where it gets really warm out, they break cluster, and then sometimes, then it gets really cold again right away. Sometimes they broke cluster, they don't get clustered back, I think, and you will lose some then. That's my thought on it. I'm not sure there's any research to cover that, but when they break cluster, they don't cluster back fast enough to get enough, produce enough heat to keep it in. Yeah. So you can have cold affecting them that way. Yeah. Warm weather then cold, and bitter cold again, you can lose some.
Question for you on this, when they take these beehives and store them in a shed at a controlled temperature, How do they cleanse, don't they?
They don't all winter pretty much. They don't, no.
What's the survival rate doing?
I don't know for sure. I haven't really had a chance to talk to them about
Just
it.
curious.
We bought some, woodenware from a beekeeper, I can't remember, over here by, Baltic. And he was overwintering some. He had a room about the size of the garage. And when I picked up stuff, I mean, he literally had drifts of dead bees. So I was just I was asking him about it. He said, well, I lost a bunch of them. He says, we had some problems, and he didn't elaborate.
Yeah, because the guy that taught me, that he's that guy out of Del Rapids.
Yeah.
He basically said, cold does not kill bees. He goes, it's ventilation, number one, get those mites off in the fall, and then you gotta make sure you have 80 to 100 pounds of honey. Those food boxes gotta be, fairly full, or they're gonna run out in the spring.
Is that David?
Yeah. And he was right, too. I mean, you don't have to he goes, you don't even worry about the cold. He goes, if you got those three things, you get most of your hives filled.
Did you shut your eyes down this winter? Put your introducer on this time?
I actually put the interest reducer not even in the slot, but just next to it, and flipped over to the wide, so it's like wide, but it's,
Who's next to it?
and then the little one they could also get out of too, and that's the way they were all around. So there was plenty of air coming in, and then with that little tomato thing, that's basically, I have it so the air can come up through that, and then the sawdust is all around it. But then air could basically come in the front, and then come out that front, and then come out. And I've always struggled with this ventilation problem. They were dry the whole time.
When I lost some bees in my first 2 hives, and it was earlier when it got a little warm, I went down there to clean them out, and they were wet. They were wet in the bottom of the hives. They were wet. Now my 3rd hive was clean as a whistle. Nothing. 4th hive and 5th hive had a few dead ones, but not too bad. But the first 2 had wet bees in them. Now I don't know why they've been different, because they were treated the same.
This one, not even my sawdust was wet. Even that, so that just kind of helped insulate it really. And I suppose there's low moisture or whatever. But I was waiting for that sawdust because I've heard of people where it's sopping wet. But
You had natural ventilation.
I think that little tomato thing was probably the best idea I came up with. And it was just garbage waste.
Bring one of them.
I was so proud of myself.
If you bring one of them next meeting, we'd all like to look at that.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Any questions for newcomers? I kind of touched on a little stuff, and like I said, I'm no expert at all, but I'm just trying to give you a little overview of what I'm trying to do. So questions, don't be afraid to ask a question. And my numbers, well, you saw that ad in the paper, it's there, but it's over there on the thing. And if I don't know the answer, I can get a hold of one of these guys that can help you with the answer. But if you're gonna raise bees, you gotta be tentative to them.
And you can always post a question on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
Then you got
Somebody will answer.
everybody looking at it. If somebody's got a good answer, then they can answer you.
Well, that's all right. Okay, I'm trying to look at my winter survival. We got dates, newcomer questions. Any other topic anybody wants to talk about?
We've got people, if they wanted to look, come over while we go through this data.
Anybody has any more questions? Well, we got a little lunch here. Go ahead. I use the screen bottom board, but I make sure I shut it up in the winter time. And then I put a little duct tape around the backside because it leaves a crack like that going into the hive from the north. And I'm wide open to the north out there. And that's a little rough out there. There's a lot of snow in the road, a lot of snow. So
In the summer and in the fall, and now
I pull it out in the summertime when it gets nice and warm. There's pros and cons to that. What I thought was a pro is if a motor light falls off a bee or something's out of line. Not saying it can't crawl back up in there. All my hives have screening. But like I said, you wanna make sure you shut it in the winter. Questions? Yes, Teresa?
Yeah, I had one more thing that I.
Yes, well, come up here. Anybody else has something, you just let me know and come on up here.
I got 15, this is what the nukes come in, anybody that got nukes from last year, but I got 15 of them. They would work really well for catching storms. So I've got 15 and I live 3 miles from here if you want to come over and get them. I just hated to burn them, so I kept them over, over the winter, so if you want them, they're there, and you can just
Teresa?
follow us home or.
Last year when we had a swarm, actually, I stood in the yard and watched them and they went right over to the empty newts. And that's where they went together. So,
They smell good.
sure,
It makes a difference,
it looks like home.
Well, a nuke like that, where there's been bees in there, they smell them. The pheromones are very, very potent. That's,
And this-
when you smoke, that's one of the things that it interrupts too, that they can't smell the pheromones, so.
How far
Is it
away?
lemongrass that you can put in?
Yeah.
If they love, yeah.
Okay.
Some
Lemongrass and
oil in
spearmint.
there. Yeah.
You put it in that empty, if you wanna catch a wild swarm,
So how far away, like, is it from where they're forming, from the hive, like, was the
Oh, they could go about quite a few miles.
Oh, yeah, maybe
But if
miles
it's
and miles.
nearby, will they smell it? It's like.
Yes.
You know what, they send scout bees out to look for a new place to live. If there's a place right there, they know it's empty, and they'll go to it.
Yep, if
So do
they
you like
like it.
preempt it? Do you keep them on your property and tie your pot, somewhere near your hive?
Right,
if
so
they're-
yeah, you can take
Yep.
this box and you put the 4 frames in it, and they'll go right in here. Yeah, 'cause that's a great home.
Now, the ideal thing is not to let them swarm,
Right,
to keep building your hive up and adding more newts and all, or more supers and all that. It does happen, doesn't it?
when I took the class, one of the guys, the instructor brought some guys in that were seasoned beekeepers for a long time. He said he catches swarms once in a while. He puts a box up in the tree and they bait it with that lemongrass or whatever that
Yep.
lemon, I'm not sure of those terms anymore. And he catches swarms once in a while and he says they're hardy bees.
Well,
So,
that's the only hive we got left is the one I caught back home and left it there for the winter,
oh yeah,
because I didn't get sprayed.
sprays is one of the culprits. Bromelites is another one.
Is it a helicopter?
Is there a
You can get a brood,
Last fall?
where they kind of like get the scholars. They're
Okay.
just real nice in the brood. I've not seen that.
Yeah.
Wax moths can get in there and lay eggs in the frames. So every once in a while, I had one time get a few of them and I treated them with bromide with oxalic acid and they dropped to the bottom.
Yeah,
They
we
stopped,
didn't
they
get
stopped
it.
when I went and talked to
It
them.
worked for me.
Yeah, we didn't
Marilyn,
get
do you have
it.
anything you want to add? Marilyn's a seasoned
They,
beekeeper.
they
Marilyn's a seasoned
landed the
beekeeper.
helicopter and left pretty fast.
I love it
And
every
they
year.
didn't finish the.
I called my friends here
Some of them
and
was bees
get a
that
hold of them
really
with
had
some
no
questions.
state. And I said, oh,
So
it's
that's
just
the
on the
advantage
side.
of being in a group. If you got
Right,
questions,
but
something is right, you don't know what to
chemicals.
do, contact somebody in the group that can answer you. Go
Another
ahead.
question.
Shoot,
So I had some mice in my hive.
mice?
Yes.
Yep.
So how, is there a safe way to clean the box at all? Or no?
Basically, you just take the frame out and knock it off and get the big, if they made a nest in there, get the big nest out. Leave, if the frames are a little dirty, it's no big deal, bees will clean it up and get it out of there.
Okay. So
Just
you
get
know
the big
box
part of the
itself?
nest out, get it out, get it cleaned out, and then they'll clean it up and they'll actually fill comb back in a lot of times where they shoot it out.
They actually peed on the box,
Well, yeah, I don't know, leave it out,
I've not
leave the
had
box
mice.
sit outside for a few days or a few weeks and
Okay, that's
let
what I
it air
did.
out. I've done that before too, just left the box and comb. Actually, I got a box, a deep box at home that's sitting outside, it's been out all winter because it had some wax moths in it. So I just left it out, it's standing up, but it's open on top and bottom, and it's wide open right on the old. I just left it out, let it air out, let the wax, it killed the wax moths, keeps the wax moths from getting back in there. I just left it out all winter, it'll be fine. They'll clean it up, straighten it up when I put it back on there.
Okay.
If your hive is healthy, they'll self-clean really well. You can tell the difference when you open a hive and look at it, how healthy they are by how clean it is. You know, that's one thing I've noticed. They do make guards you can put in front of the hive if you got a mouse problem. We only get about 15 in our shed every year with traps, so I'm hoping they don't go in the mouse. Hoping they don't go into my mouse or my beehives.
Yeah, you can buy the wire mesh that's 3/8 by 3/8. If you go up to 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch, these little bowls that are all over everybody's yards, the little bowls that dig underground, they can still fit through a little 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch square. I don't know how they do it, but they can squeeze through them. So I would go to like a 3/8 square if you're having an issue with mice or moles climbing in there. Go to a 3/8 inch mesh, and then the bees can go in and out, doesn't bother them a bit, doesn't slow them down, but it keeps everything else out.
Can I have a mom cat pregnant, so. Free kittens in about 12 weeks, so.
Another thing I do is take, you know, those little, you buy them a little kit, but it's a mouse thing with a little bait bar, and it's a plastic thing that you clip, and then the mice can get in there, and, you know, the cats and dogs can't get in there. And I put a few of those just kind of around the hive.
Yeah.
And I mean, they believe it.
Yep, they know if you put mouse traps out, them bait traps out, they work, they really do.
Can someone talk about breeds or varieties
Different
of
varieties.
bees? Or I know there's different kinds, but is there a better kind that have?
Traditional bee that everybody thinks of is Italian. Very gentle, medium honey production, but the big thing is they're very gentle. They're medium for overwintering. Now you get to the other extreme, you end up with the Saskatraz, which were developed in Canada, and Russian bees. And they seem to do good. Of course, the Saskatraz don't handle spray very good apparently, but, so, otherwise we'd be able to tell you more about those. And it's just kind of a preference, what do you like?
Yeah,
Some bees, and some bees are aggressive,
Right.
and it's really odd because you can have, you know, like queens out of the same batch, and you'll have one colony that is just, you can do anything with them. They're just completely gentle. And the colony next to them can be just little buggers. You know, you basically start to lift the lid out, and you're plastered with bees on you, because they're trying to sting you. But yeah, the Carlinians, they tend to be kind of a in between. They're supposed to overwinter better than the Italians. Have I missed any?
You got the Minnesota hygienics, but I don't know how
Yeah.
well they.
Yeah, there's so many of different
There's
strains of them right now.
Trying to create some that will, like, clean the varroa mites off of their bodies so
Right.
that they don't have varroa mites so much, but.
Yeah.
John and Joel brought me 3 Saskatchewan queens, so I split one hive into 3 and then we requeened it. Boy, that one is just pristine inside. Clean, nice, they look good. The other 2 are weak, but they're okay. And my other 2 hives are, I'm gonna wait till it's too long to open them because I don't know how they are. There's some bees left and I don't know what they look like. You know. But they handle the winter real well, the cold.
Yeah, they're supposed to be quite good.
But I don't think there's as big a bee. My first 2 hives had a lot bigger bee than the last 3.
Yeah,
Smaller bee.
yes, and the different ones do vary.
Yeah.
Yeah, they vary in size, yeah.
Any more questions? Don't be shy. Otherwise, I'm gonna start eating. No, I I gotta look, make sure, my memory's not very good. Took too many bumps on the head in the service. So, okay, I think we got everything covered for now. And I will send out an email, to everyone that signed that sheet there, providing I can read your address, make sure it's legible. I'm real good at that. And then I'll give you an update of what these meetings are gonna contain and stuff. And it's come and go, there's no fee, we don't charge anything. When we have a meeting, we just have a little potluck, just bring nothing there, if you don't have to either. And then we just, after the meeting, we kinda sit around and share stuff and try to, answer questions and stuff, so. Before we do the meeting, we're at our place in our house, we always say a little prayer of thanksgiving, and you don't have to participate in it. I just do that because we're in my house, so I'll just say it myself here out loud. Dear Jesus, thank you for this time of meeting together, thank you for this food, and thank you for giving this opportunity to raise your little creatures, and we thank you for everything you've done for us, amen. There, time to eat.
Check out her
And I can write that down.
talking about taking it out.
I'm gonna buy your salmon. I'll double We've got a variety of stuff.
The only thing it tells me is my earlights are in the hills. I've got $2 and one crash, and I sharpened the old one. I thought for sure the place up on the north end, the balls are sharpened, the blades are sharpened.